So this is based on an Israeli film, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Had you seen the film before getting involved in the project?
Before getting involved in the project, no. But as soon as I'd read a script that was an adaptation of that film. I say adaptation only because it's not an exact replica in any way. And there was a discussion immediately about whether I should see that film. And I said, well, of course I will and must see it, because it's the raw material I'm working from. And I don't know what I expected, but what I expected was... what I got was, a really good film, striking film. It's quite small in scale because they didn't have much money to make it, and it's made in Hebrew, as you probably know, and therefore wasn't released outside Israel. But it seemed very potent material, and I admired it and admired several things about it. And that might have made me think, oh no, I don't want to go here. But actually, it had the opposite effect. It made me just think, well, this would be really interesting to adapt. And so we set about, doing our own thing with it, really.
You shot in sequence, right?
We shot it chronologically. We didn't shoot it. In the film, as you know, it moves around, chronologically speaking, but we shot it chronologically, meaning that we shot the mid-60s story first with one cast, and then shot the outer story, the sort of framing story, the part that takes place in the mid-90s afterwards. So we shot initially in London, which was a set for the safe house. Then we moved to Budapest, which stood in for East Berlin. And then we moved to Israel, and then came back to Budapest again, actually, to shoot the Ukraine.
Wow. Who did you cast first, Helen or Jessica? Okay.
Helen.
So you had the rather daunting task of finding someone who can play a young Helen Mirren.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting task, but I made life a little bit more difficult for myself by limiting it to people who I thought were not known, or didn't at any rate carry a lot of baggage for the audience, because it seems to me I didn't want any kind of as little artifice to enter into the equation as I could, because it's already, I suppose, an artificial concept to have one part played by two different people. But I certainly didn't want the audience thinking, well, how did, it'd be invidious to name a name, but actress A turn into Helen Mirren, which I know would have dominated the publicity agenda had I done that. So so I wanted to cast somebody under the radar, let's put it that way. I mean, Jessica was unknown in Hollywood parlance at that point, as if somehow she didn't exist and suddenly materialized in this film. She was an experienced actress, though she hadn't done much in movie terms. And I was very lucky because she's a sensational actress and she has a very natural physical affinity with Helen. It was not difficult to create that. One or two simple maneuvers like matching their hair color and so on and so forth just did enough for the audience to be able to accept that without scratching their heads about it.